Action.
What's up, guys?
What's
Thank you
good?
for tuning in. This is Ignacio Guillen, and I'm here with a special guest, my first guest, my brother Jesus Guillen. So, what's up, brother?
What's up, my
Welcome to
boy?
the podcast. Thank you for
Welcome.
accepting the invitation.
It's good to be here. It's
Um,
my second podcast ever.
Jesus is 22, 1-0 kickboxing champ.
Hey, unofficially.
Unofficially, just kidding. Nah, but yeah, my brother has a lot of experience with martial arts, gardening, agriculture.
Growing
He's an
food.
artist himself. He grew up in the music industry, and yeah, he just has a really nice perspective on life, and I truly am honored to call him my brother. And yeah, I look up to him myself, not gonna lie, because yeah, he's just a great example of how to be a great human, right? His name's Jesus too, you know.
So
Kind of like
blessing and a curse, it comes
yeah,
with some weight to it.
no
I
cap.
guess which I choose to carry the weight, or I choose to associate some weight to that name, and I feel like there's something to living to that principle of being like Jesus.
Yeah, amen. No cap. Jesus, today this was spontaneous. Today, first of all, thank you for taking me to the gym. I woke
Okay.
up and yeah, didn't have that planned. But Jesus, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit of the first memories you have growing up? I know. Tell us about when you were born, where you were born, and kind of just like your first 5 years as a human being on this planet,
Whew.
from what you can remember.
From what I can remember, being little, I probably remember, or I kind of like caught some sort of like, what is it, like perspective, or real, like, what is intuition, or I think maybe like 5 or 6, for sure 6. I feel like I can really look back at like kindergarten, or maybe no. There's memories of pre-K, and
Okay.
memories maybe of even before that.
Where'd you go
But
to school?
around pre-K is probably where I remember some of my first memories. I went to school in Silmar, California. That's where we were born. I was born in Panorama City, which is still like 20 minutes out from Silmar, but uh, I went to school in Silmar for the most part. And yeah, I remember like memories of like when our uncle Eliseo would take care of us. Shout out to you,
Yeah.
Chepo. I remember the memories of us like primos hanging out with him, and like him taking care of all of us. So I wasn't even going to school yet, maybe. So if you were in pre-K, I was maybe in like what, like
3,
4.
4, yeah.
So maybe that's kind of where I remember I gained consciousness and I woke up. Um, but I remember as a kid, I've always been very creative, very resourceful, and very like intuitive. I think I always kind of had this voice in my head that guided me to whether it was creatively. I think I was guided by my voice a lot of times, and I think there was times where authority questioned that, or challenged that. And from a young age, I realized that like I needed to protect that. I needed to protect that little voice that I heard, because that voice granted me maybe security, maybe it granted me um, security, I feel like. And in the world when you're young, there's not many things that I feel like can bring that to you. So finding that really young, or feeling that really young, definitely helped me like evolve into the person I am today. And I think the way we were raised, we were shown a lot of different things. We saw a lot of things. We experienced a lot of things, and good, bad, ugly, good, like nice, and like everything in between that, and I think that's a very good upbringing to make someone become a well-rounded thinker, well-rounded person, well-rounded human being in general. I think the fact that we weren't sheltered or weren't like spoon-fed everything,
Yeah.
I think definitely feeds into the perspective of who you want to become, and when it comes to raising children, who the people you want to raise, have them become. Because I think our parents did a really good job, and I think we've always kind of been told that, and like we've always reaped those rewards from them, from the stuff they did. And maybe they probably didn't know that they were doing what they were doing, or impacting us in a way, but somehow I think our parents did have a certain path for us to follow, and I think that really helped us kind of with our morals and principles, that we had to kind of stay on this path that my dad was saying, and sometimes that challenged who we wanted to be or who we were in the moment. But looking back, it's really nice to know that it was all for something. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't just like him being a dick or him like being mean. It was always like, although maybe in the moment it felt unfair,
Yeah.
it really was fair. And even despite like the disciplines and stuff, that the way that we were disciplined, like I don't look back and like feel like a victim. I feel like it just helped me. Like it's like, all right, bro, like we survived that and it wasn't that bad, because
Yeah.
we've also heard worse.
Different stories.
We've also heard different perspectives, and maybe in the moment, the little me felt like, oh my god, like I'm a victim. But now it's like, wait, like you really weren't. Like you really weren't.
Yeah, we were just growing up and just trying to learn with the little we knew from what we learned from school, from what we learned from being in certain environments. Maybe um very early on we started performing together from a
Mm-hmm.
very young age. So I feel like that also helped us not only practice talk to different people at different ages. Like we were always constantly being
Like adapting. I feel like there was no like there was never like like there were certain instances like that where you maybe didn't even have a choice to
yeah
really be there or not be there. Like for example, gigging, right? This is what we're talking about when we talk about performing.
performing.
Like I personally feel like I probably didn't have a choice to
Yeah,
be
he
there.
he honestly didn't. My dad was
Um,
just like, "You're gonna do it."
it was just like, what do you want to play? And it was like I remember pointing or like with my foot, like I'll play this one, not really knowing like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be
Yeah,
performing at parties and like this is gonna lead to like gigging and money and shit. I'm like 6 or 7, so
yeah.
it wasn't really like, oh, pick your career. It wasn't really like, oh, it was just more so like, well, you're gonna do this because
We definitely
this is
had
what
it
we are. This is where we're at in life.
from a very young age. We definitely were entrepreneurs, and there's proof because I mean, we lived it from a very young age. I remember us going to door knock with our mom for her
Dropping off business cards.
cleaning services,
Yeah,
and we were like what, like 5, 6, driving
yeah.
around in Granada
I
Hills, like
remember that now. Every time I pass by Balboa,
yeah,
dude,
man,
I
like
see that neighborhood where
trying
we
to
did go drop
survive.
off cards.
And it's funny because a lot of the things that I see now being marketed as like cool and stuff, I remember back then like being shy about it. Like I remember being scared to tell people that my parents were my mom was self-employed, which if you think about it now, it's badass that she's
Done it for so
done that
long.
for herself. Exactly. When before it was more of a like, oh crap, like I don't want to tell people that my mom cleaned houses, but like now, like as you're older, you appreciate like that, and it really goes to show that like the schooling we got from a very young age, from always knowing that we have to, no matter what, even if we don't like it, sometimes we have to do things because they're either going to make us a better person or because it's just what we need to do in the moment to set us up for the future.
Yeah, and a lot of things like even ordering stuff, like which
Yeah.
was like, okay, not really a big deal. It's not a big deal. But stuff like that, we're talking for our parents because there is a language barrier in a lot of
Yeah.
situations, and even sometimes feeling embarrassed about that because our world at home was Spanish, our whole culture was
Yeah.
Spanish, and then it wasn't until we learned English at school we started speaking amongst ourselves,
Yeah.
amongst our cousins that were also learning English, but our customs, our values, and all that was based around the Spanish speaking side, the Mexican side of us. And I think that also fed into us early on, like being able to adapt in a lot of ways. Like maybe we didn't know it, but we were adapting then. We were just like, all right,
Mhm.
this is the environment we're in, so this is English time. And then it wasn't like, oh yeah, like I speak Spanish at home, or we talked about, oh yeah, I speak Spanish at home. I don't think it was really that. It was just we were
Yeah, you were
adapting.
just
And I think like a chameleon, you kind of blend into certain environments, and even nowadays, it's helped me be able to blend in with certain people, certain like everywhere I go. I feel like I can kind of blend with whatever's going on or the people that I'm with, find some sort of common ground, and
yeah.
like, all right, you guys are wearing red right now. All right, but I got red on right now too. Like, and just to maybe survive or to just get by or just survive and get by.
Yeah.
And I think it's helps with, being open to not being the same or being too stuck on one form of being, like I don't think, although there's been evolutions and I don't think like I've changed, and like there's times where I don't think I've changed and there's times where I can see and be like, whoa, shit, so much has changed. But at the core, I think there's a lot of things that are still congruent to when we were young or
What's
to who
something
we were.
that maybe right now we're talking about how you've changed, um, and just the growth you've experienced throughout the years. I know that, well, since we live together here at home, I've seen kind of your growth as well as a human being, as a man, as a provider. What are some things that you feel? You're 22 right now, but I don't know, fresh out of high school, Jesus, like how different are you from that time, and like, yeah, what have you learned
So yeah,
in the last 4
how I
years?
was saying how there's parts of me that hasn't changed and there are parts of me that has. Like I'll go on and listen to podcasts I've done like 4 years ago, and
You've been at it for a while.
certain jokes I'll say or certain remarks I'll make like still make me laugh because it's like I'm still this, like that's still fucking me. But in terms of becoming a man, or I guess when you're out of high school, there's parts of you that are developing in that way, or maybe some people are forced to step into that earlier on. I feel I kind of had the blessing to kind of coast a little longer than, or not that I had to choose. I chose to coast a little longer, given the circumstances that we had, and I think that allowed me to unravel certain personality things I felt called to without the pressure of, okay, go work a minimum wage job and figure it out now. Although in the maybe moment it might have been like, well, dude, that could fix so many of these little issues I'm dealing with. I think as a man, from where I was senior year, there were certain ideas and goals I had in mind, but there was a lot of like things I had to go through still. Like I went through a big breakup. I went through a breakup with friends that were long-term friendships. I went through, like, I kind of just walked alone for a bit, and I've kind of always walked alone in a way. In a lot of ways, I feel like I've walked alone because since I was little, there was always that comparison of you and me. And maybe you
Yeah.
don't really like subconsciously like think that, but you kind of feel it. And it's maybe a healthy thing to feel among siblings. That's probably like
Yeah.
a little bit of like it's bred in to like have to compete or have to like overachieve. But definitely, I feel like there was parts of me that were seeking value constantly because I feel like I was maybe put aside or kind of wasn't really the star of the show, And I think there were parts of me growing up that wanted to be the star of the show for my own ways or in my own ways, but because this formula was working, which the music was, it
Yeah.
seemed like, oh fuck, like I have to do it in another way. And I think that goes back to that voice in my head that was like, okay, like we'll do it in our own way. We'll figure it out in our own way. I'll achieve those things in my own way. And I think that being a center of knowing, hey, dude, like it might not be the way that it is right now, or I might not be the star of the show, and I might not even need to be the star of the show. It's just cool to know that at one point, me being this, it's like it's gonna draw people to want to know me, want to get
Yeah.
to see what I'm doing, or just simply respect what I'm doing, and not feel like, hey, like this is me, showing up as like trying to be the star of the show, but they're like, bro, like
Yeah, not being your
like
authentic
yeah,
self.
you're right,
Trying
we
to
don't
just fit
care,
in rather than being
trying to
yourself.
fit in, or like even like with the music stuff, like there was a
Yeah.
lot I didn't want to do it,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it, but my dad would be like, oh, it's for money, go work for money, go work for money. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, fuck, bro, I don't feel like I need money, bro. Like, what the fuck do I need
I'm a
money for?
kid.
I'm in fucking 8th grade. And
Yeah.
I think, like, that kind of helped, or that set me up to want to provide for myself in a way that in the moment I didn't think it was what I was doing. Like, I didn't think that, oh, by me going to work, I'm providing for myself.
Yeah.
It felt more like if I'm going to work, I'm taking away my time, or I'm taking away like energy that I'm just gonna give out, and yeah, maybe receive fucking $80 or $20, $40 the weekend, or the
Yeah.
4 hours I played. Like, because one, I didn't play that good, so two, like I didn't practice, and three, I just didn't really care. It wasn't really something I wanted to do. It was just more so, all right, well, fuck, it's almost 6 o'clock, so I gotta start heading out to the banda. They're gonna drop me off where they need to drop me off so that I can go with whoever I need to go with so to play, and I'll be back at fucking midnight.
Yeah.
So I feel like those shits, and like it's not like I told anyone at school. You know,
Yeah.
I never really told anyone about it. I told maybe like I can count maybe two people I like mentioned it to throughout my high school, middle school, like time. And it, like maybe they knew you did it, but they didn't know that I did it. And I think I kind of got really comfortable just being not the center of the show,
Yeah.
because it helped me. It bought me time to unravel what I wanted to do, and that therefore when I unraveled what I wanted to do, which became martial arts, which became, growing food now, it's helped me pave my own path while still being congruent to the main show. It's like it's still part of this big circle. It's still part of this like path we're on. It's just I've took a few steps to the right, but we're still walking this parallel path because a lot of me still plugs into that. And I think that goes back to being like the chameleon stuff, or the chameleon self, where now I show up as myself through the little mini battles I've gone through to still be here, still be me, and still be be even stronger maybe than I was before I actually veered off that path. And now it feels like things are coming full circle, because you feel like you see things for what a real provider is, not just like like me providing for a young kid. Like, I'm providing for me, I'm providing for my future, I'm providing for my family even. And it might not be like fully where I want it to be, but the steps are like being taken to be that. So I feel like that's some of the things I've learned recently. And it took a lot for me to realize, like, hey, dude, like, just pave your own path. And if you pave your path, like, it's like that quote, it's like, it's crazy until you do it, So I feel like a lot of times maybe shit I wanted to do was unconventional or weird or different or not the main part of the show. Is like, this is like my fucking mini series on the side. But
Yeah.
when you show up in that way, like, people, it's like also another quote is like, if you build it, they will come. And I like those principles of thinking like there's something that I'm building, and I can see people and feel people are gathering around to hear my message or hear my principles, hear what I have to say. And I appreciate that it took me going and doing those like mini battles to become who I am, so that when I do show up, I'm not seeking anyone's validation. I'm not seeking acceptance. I'm not seeking for people to notice me or give me a thumbs up or a high five, pat on the back. It's all that comes from within, because it's been me and myself.
Yeah. Who are some of the right now? Who are some of the leaders that have helped you harness this type of mindset? Because this is not, again, like we're talking about, not very conventional way of thinking. If you think about it, right now, I see it myself since I'm in the industry, in the entertainment industry. But I know that I see different walks of life. I see everything, and I respect everybody's decisions, and I don't judge anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, that's not something I hear when I go like your way of thinking is very deep. It's more profound rather than just like like what I'm getting to is like I don't hear these type of conversations like happening at a club or like at the environments I'm at least, where I see people around the same age as us, where for sure I know that you're more of the I would say from like outside view in, you're more of the reserved type of, rather than being in a big environment, you'd rather just be with your close tight circle and working on your goals.
I think it came with that, like, maybe I think it came with the So in terms of leaders, let me see how I can. Let me put some thought to this response. It comes back to, I think my dad is a big one, where in the moment, even growing up, I judged him or like didn't really understand why he was doing what he was doing, why at some points of the time he was working 2 jobs, and constantly working 2 jobs, whether it was the nightlife music stuff or, doing this side job and working in his main job. In the moment, you feel like, why is my dad not want to be here? Or like, why doesn't he really hang out with us? Or like, I don't feel like too connected to him. Or why don't I understand him? Or why doesn't he understand me?
Yeah.
So that kind of like prompts you to go and start looking internally. And not that a lot of people our age haven't had that sort of thing, but maybe they didn't, and I think when you're prompted to go and seek your own path, it's like the hero's journey is bound to happen, and not that they're not on their hero's journey, or that my journey is faster than theirs, or that they're not like going through the experiences that will lead them to have these deep thoughts. I just think we were confronted. We had like free range to explore the world, cultures, people, perspectives, and always learn from people. Like being a student of life, I think that's a big principle of ours, or at least of mine. I feel like there's always something I can learn from people. There's always something I can just observe and reflect upon myself, and reflect upon a future in myself. So it's not just like, okay, I'm thinking surface level of myself, just what I want, my needs, desires. It's not just like the hierarchy of needs. It's like there's a different thought within those thoughts where I can look at myself from a third person view, perhaps even a fucking fourth person view, which is kind of a even deeper concept than that. And it's not like I'm a super deep philosopher thinker, or like I'm like super educated on a lot of things, but definitely when it is something that I do enjoy, like I feel called to unravel those things that I do enjoy, because there was a lot of times where I was forced to do things I didn't enjoy. So there's a part of me that seeks to give myself that when I can. And I mean, hopefully hopefully it keeps being that way. And although, even now that's like, oh, I'm working like a job, and like it's like still in the way, my way, and the things that I ask for is like coming in through that. But in the moment, it might not feel like it's happening, or it might feel like it's happening really slowly. And the more we focus on what we don't have instead of what we do have, I think that helps you kind of center and know, okay, bro, like that's maybe not where you're at, or maybe that's not what you want to do, but keep at it, keep doing this, and it will. And again, it's not for anyone's thumbs up, it's not for anyone's pat on the back, because I think I had my fair share of like letting people down. And I know this is very little, and I've talked about it before, where it's like, okay, not graduating middle school is not a fucking big deal. No one even cares. Nobody even knows. Nobody even it doesn't even matter. It's not even a real graduation. But when I let my parents down in that way, and I saw, I got disciplined too. It wasn't just like, okay, get out. You didn't do it. Whatever. Try again next year. It was like I felt it. I felt it from a super deep level.
Didn't our mom go in and talk with the principal?
We tried, bro. So we there was this appeal process where, so what happened was I failed English because I thought I had a C. So the last couple of weeks I was like, I don't need to do nothing. I made it. I got a C. Like I just need C's to graduate, because it was like, whatever. Like whatever I need to do to get by, I'll get by, and fuck it. My homie told me, all right, you got a C. I saw the grades. So I was like, hey, we got a C. We got a C. And next thing I know, one day, that's when they shipped the report cards to the mail, and she came and she showed me the F, and now even I was like, what the fuck? So basically, that made me ineligible to graduate on stage, and if I did good next year, or like the next semester, it would help, and maybe I get a chance to graduate on stage and do the rest of the like activities and shit because I didn't do grad night or any of that. So yeah, so I didn't even go to winter formal or whatever that shit's called, semi-formal, which isn't really it doesn't even matter, you know. Like I think about it, like
cool,
had I
yeah.
had
don't
I
think went to
gone,
mine either.
had I gone, would it have been cool? Maybe,
Yeah.
but it didn't matter at the end of
Yeah,
the day.
didn't matter.
But it did. It was something like, dude, I put my parents through humiliation, you know, and maybe to me it didn't matter, but I knew that to them it did.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it made me think of like, holy fuck, like I'm not just living for me, although I was fucking doing my own shit at that time. I was like paving my own path. Like it made me think of like, wait, like it's deeper than just myself and my needs. It's like it's for a reason bigger than myself
Yeah.
that I have to show up and be better. And I think that kind of helped me, like that little mistake, that hiccup helped me like recenter and recalibrate to be like, okay, like that's a mistake, but you're not that mistake. And I mean, if you can keep being this mistake if you want to keep playing this role, but I feel like I wasn't destined to play that role. It was like, dude, there's more to you, and you know that you just need to apply yourself in the shit that you do enjoy. So I think that's kind of helped me pave this path of like, okay, well, what do I enjoy and what do I want to fucking go towards for myself, while still being a positive beacon of like a role model, you know, a role model to Adrian, a role model to the family, to whoever wants to, whoever maybe admires anything that I've been doing and the way I've been living. It's to live for a purpose bigger than just my desires, and it's not just about like short term outcomes. You know, it's like a long term play. Life is a long term thing. And I think in the moment when you're young, you're like, it's fucking middle school, like, whatever, it doesn't fucking matter. But had I like stayed in that mindset, it wouldn't have helped me. You know, imagine if I wrote that mindset out through high school. I'm a loser. I'm a misfit. Like, although I hung out with them, although I was with them because I felt like they made me feel seen, or I felt we felt connected in a way because shared circumstances perhaps, or shared moments that make us maybe
Just
bonding
people,
through that maybe pain or that loneliness or that afraidness. When I went through the breakup of just detaching from my friends, detaching from the past relationship I was in, it kind of gave me a fresh start. So 8th grade, maybe after 8th grade, it was like a fresh start, right? 9th grade going into it, it was like, okay, this is a chance to do something different. And over time, as you develop a little older, you start feeling more shit, seeing more shit, experiencing shit, like breakups, like chasing your own desires, and then maybe fucking just getting caught slipping.
or getting lost.
And you get lost too. I did get lost maybe.
Yeah.
And you find, you know, vices, you find tools per se that help you cope with things or help you be accepted in certain environments. That even that I felt in my head, there was a part of me that could always detach, maybe because it was like the perspective of knowing, oh shit, my dad or my parents, or like, shout out dad. We can pause it right here really quick.
We'll be right back. We're
back. So back to what I was saying about the perspective that always helped me detach. I think there was always I always heard him in my ear. I always heard my dad, and I always contemplated doing certain shit and hearing his voice being like, oh, like the homies are ditching school. Nah, like, that ain't for me. Like I just I could put myself in the perspective of, nope, if I get caught slipping, bro, I don't know what the end's gonna be like for that shit. Yeah. So it kind of always kept me on my toes to be like, hang on, like follow this path, and at the same time start to figure out what path you want to follow for yourself, because their path and their principles are good, but there's a time where you leave the nests. There's maybe different stages of that. Maybe there's a part where you leave it mentally, where you start hearing ideas and you start learning about stuff, learning about history, learning about certain things, and you're like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to repeat that cycle. Yeah. So you start to like kind of detach in a way, but you also can be guided by those principles to be like, oh, fuck, well, I shouldn't do that. I should do this. I am this way. I want to be this way. I don't want to be that way. And definitely the attitude of learning from everybody and finding out that you can learn from other people's mistakes to not have those things happen. I think the friend group I was in kind of let me see certain people go past the line or past like where I drew the line for myself, and seeing what happens if I continued walking that way. It's like, oh shit, like maybe not, or yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun, but look, this homie got this girl pregnant. Like, oh fuck, these homies are now not from chiefing up, now they're fucking taking pills, and it's like, wait, like that's something that's not what I see for myself
Yeah.
because I had this higher vision, higher me, higher like parent figure telling me, hey, watch out, bro, watch out with that shit. And I think even the environments that come with being in the banda, like you see shit and maybe at the moment you don't know shit or you don't really realize it, but now you grow up and you're like, wait, that's what they were doing? That's what they were
Yeah.
talking about?
That's happened for
Oh,
sure. A lot of things in my life now that I'm older, yeah, for sure. I mean, I started gigging when I was 7 too. I mean, we were young, and yeah, I remember seeing it all. Drugs.
like
I remember seeing some
lustfulness.
dude just hide like cocaine in his shoe, like different little small things. Like músicos. Like the saying goes, que like, they're mujeriegos or whatever. Like I saw a lot of shit. Like I
See
saw
people
certain
like
artists doing
cheating on their
stuff.
partners and
I saw a
shit.
lot of that too from a very young
And
age.
you're just
I
like,
remember
whoa.
seeing like infidelity, and to
You're like,
me it
what
was
the
like, what the
fuck?
fuck? Because
Yeah.
from a very young age, to me personally, I feel like it was ingrained in me that it was wrong. And whenever
Yeah.
I saw people doing it, I mean, it made me feel bad, but it also was like, damn, I don't want to do that.
And you
And
couldn't say anything
yeah,
about it because it
you
was like
couldn't
wasn't your
either.
place. But
You're a
that's
little
kind of
kid.
goes back to the fly on the wall thing or the chameleon where you just kind of were like, oh, okay, adapt. All right, don't say nothing. Keep that bottled up.
And
But
not just musicals though, but like in general, like
in every part of
every
life,
part of life, exactly.
there's
Like,
something to learn from. Even people you see walking down the street, you're like, oh, maybe you can judge them in a way,
yeah,
but there's maybe lessons to what they're doing that you can pull from. If you fucking really try to pull something,
yeah,
you'll find it. And that definitely makes you like it shapes you in a way that you don't anticipate it because they also don't anticipate that other people are watching or that someone young is
yeah,
watching. It's not like they're just living their life. They're not like, oh shit, Nachito's right there.
yeah,
Like, let me not do this thing or let me not do this drug or let me not like talk to this
yeah,
girl
bro.
because they're thinking for themselves and
Hmm.
that's okay. You learn to see, oh, that's not what I want for me though, or that's not what I see
Yeah,
for myself. And even if you don't have anything, you just kind of start to form your belief systems. And I think maybe I shaped my belief systems really early on, but in the same way, my belief systems have never been super set in stone because I've always been open to changing or adapting
yeah,
with the moment or the people that I'm with, or for example, like if I need to say a certain thing or act a certain way, or just accept certain behaviors to get by in this moment, it's
yeah.
okay. But I know who I am in myself.
I'm gonna try to say a quote that I heard that's very similar to this, and it's, I hope I don't butcher it, but it's, hold strong beliefs loosely and learn to hold loose beliefs.
So I have this little notebook that I write down some of the most impactful quotes that I've ever heard. And one of them I heard from you, and I think I researched and found where it came from, and it was like a Stanford college professor or something like that. And I'm going to totally butcher this, but I want to hear you say it, okay? It's the have like firm convictions loosely held rather than loose convictions firmly held or something like that. What is that quote?
Strong beliefs loosely held, not loose beliefs strongly held.
Yeah.
Strongly. Which, when well, maybe I don't know if I butchered it or not, but to me what that meant was that indeed, exactly, have the courage to, sure, follow your beliefs, but if you're enlightened and you can accept change, like that's good, that's why the saying goes, yeah, hold your strong beliefs loosely and hold your loose beliefs strongly.
Yeah, I get that, and I think
And I
that's what
could
it
have maybe
is.
said it wrong, but
But I get
I'll
what you
find
mean
it. I'll
though,
find
because yeah, you look it up because I feel that's what it was. Like I had so many beliefs growing up. I had like I was just indoctrinated with those beliefs. Like we were taught as a kid to hold certain values and beliefs, and our culture lived life a certain way, and the American culture lived life another way. And then there's
you know what's
movies.
something interesting that
Huh?
that I think about how, I mean, we didn't again see it through the lens of like, oh, Native American meetings or celebrations, you know. But growing up, well, both of our parents are from the same town in Mexico, and growing up here in the States, there were maybe 2 or 3 yearly like gatherings of like where
Like fundraisers.
like they just get to like the whole community from this certain town would get together at parks and just throw like a little festival with music, dances.
Like fundraiser for the churches and for the pueblo, basically. You know?
And it was just to make up funds for the pueblo,
For
and
the next
it's interesting
generation.
'cause, well, you know, growing up here, you know, well, there's also like Native Americans from the Americas, and well, I remember hearing friends also doing the same thing, going to like I don't remember exactly what tribes or whatever, but like it's cool to like now that you're older, you're like, dude, we're literally doing the same thing, and like it's cool to think that because when you're younger and you're small and you just see the lens, like life through maybe just the Spanish lens, like you think you're the odd one out, but you're literally walking the same path.
Yeah,
almost.
it's parallels. And I think that's where principles and beliefs are what hold somebody together or can hold you together. And those beliefs can either make or break you, you know? Some beliefs can make or break you. And it's like if you lean too far this way in certain environments, it might result in a certain response. So maybe you adapt accordingly. It doesn't mean you fold. Doesn't mean you abandon your beliefs, but certain times you have to get by, and that's okay. You can't blame yourself, or you can't victimize yourself for doing what you did to have to get by in the ways that you had to, or to overcome what you saw. Yeah, overcome what you saw. Like you just had to survive. And at the end of the day, life is survival. So if you're not put in environments where you feel like you need to survive, how will you know who you are?
2 years ago, you stepped onto the mat
For like 3
in
years
Fullerton,
ago.
California, to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and there you went into battle. Can you tell us a little bit about how that day went and how that point also just helped you
Another reset.
achieve another reset indeed, and just continue this path of.
So that was another reset because that day
growth.
I broke my collarbone. So
You what?
long story short, I broke my collarbone in my third match at Jiu-Jitsu World League Fullerton. And partly because I fucking didn't cut weight properly. I overcut weight. I was malnutritioned. I've weighed in at the lowest weight I've ever held. Like I've recently held from when I was a senior. I was probably like 170 at the time, 174. And that day I weighed in at 148 pounds, which now I weigh 160 around there. So I dropped about like 9 pounds, and I remember it was just like unhealthy cutting. I just wasn't eating. I was working out a lot. So I think I was malnutritioned. So after 2 bouts of combat, of like intense combat, because when you compete, the fucking people come at you harder than it's ever been at training, at open mat. Like it's fucking like it's intense. It's a little different than just, all right, we're slapping hands and we're rolling. It's like this fucker wants to kill me. Holy fuck. And sure enough, you can tunnel vision in like adrenaline. So basically I got tripped in a certain way that resulted in me falling on my side like this, and that resulted in my bone popping out, and I still got a scar to show for it. I got a surgery a month later or a couple weeks later. I have a titanium plate screwed onto this collarbone right here. Still to this day, I feel it right here. And that was a reset because going into that, I knew I was good. I felt really good. I felt like the training I was doing was working. I feel like in my head, I knew what I was doing. I felt prepared to go and test myself. But I remember at that match, I was too tunnel visioned. I held on to the grips too much, and this guy knew judo, so he used my momentum against me, and he tripped me. And fair play to him. He fucking armbarred me after that too. Fair play to him. I don't hold like a grudge, or I don't feel like
No.
I don't feel bad about it. It's just what it was. I knew where I fucked up. I held on too long to his fucking gi. And he's like, all right, bet. You're coming forward. I'm going to push you backward, and you're going to fucking trip, and boom. And it was that easy. That simple. My bone was like, fucking. But then I got surgery. So to long story short, that was another reset recently where
Can't find the quote.
COVID, after COVID, well, COVID was a reset for everybody, but the pandemic was a reset for everybody. So within that, I had recently gotten out of the relationship I was in, and I started working on myself because I was a little bit on the heavier side. And I had basically started listening to David Goggins, Joe Rogan, and all those people were in my ear. So Joe Rogan, David Goggins, Joe Rogan for sure senior year was a big part in my transition to the psychonaut space, like looking into different fucking realities. I tried acid for the first time senior year.
Yeah, I remember that.
First semester senior year. So even that was like, whoa. Like from feeling like depressed or feeling like unworthiness, I kind of tapped into this like goodness of the universe, of the world, of life, God, the universe. That was a fucking another reset. So I think my life's just been a constant battle, a constant refreshing, and surrendering to know, okay, dude, like stick to the principles, and this is the circumstance right now, but keep going. And I think that's where I'm able to stand so strong on myself now, or on me, who I am, because I feel the resets have helped me like recalibrate, get rid of what didn't work, and keep going with what did.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I feel has really helped me. So before that injury, I was really like focused on jiu-jitsu, and then I realized like, hang on, like there's an unhealthy way that I've been doing it maybe, or there's a way that I'm doing it really short-term minded and not like longevity minded, and I'm doing it very because like not a strong enough reason to know why I was doing it. It was more so to make up for insecurities of unconfidence, and then I gained confidence, and then I gained validation from the people that used to not like look my way.
Yeah.
So there was this like ego driven thing of like, ooh, like people are feeding into this power I know I'm giving out. Yeah. I'm like fucking giving out this powerful energy, and I can see people are drawn to it. And that was in itself a little like ego trip, and that could lead you to a maybe a bad place, I think, just from what I've seen certain people unravel. That was like a reset of knowing like, hang on, like you think you're all that, hang on. You're gonna be in a sling and collarbone broken for the next 3 months. So yeah, you ain't hot shit, really. You know, it's just like, oh fuck, I can't train, I can't do all this shit that was giving me validation. So it was like, oh, what the heck? So who am I? And then I was like, wait, like who am I? And then there's a period of time where I hurt my knee in jiu-jitsu too. That was another reset where it was like, hang on, like, I don't want to not be able to walk. Like, what the fuck? Like, hang on. How could I do this healthier? How could I lift weights? How can I eat better and still get stronger, be more balanced about it, and still train hard if I want to train hard? So I think surrendering is a big moment, a big part of the journey, being grateful to even those unfortunate experiences. In the moment, they're unfortunate, but I'm grateful for that. Like, had it not happened, who knows where I'd be? You know, that reset led me to, it showed me who fucked with me like heavy. It showed me like, even after I was getting that attention fed, like, and I stopped hanging out in those areas, like the energy disappeared. So it was very short term. Yeah. It was very short term lived, and maybe in the moment it would have been cool to live out some fantasies from a younger me, but then it was like, dude, abandon that shit, shed that skin, and just shed them and bear new ones. And this skin continuously is gonna get like scraped up and scuffed up, but there will be a time where you got to shed that skin too and step into something new. And I think that's a very valuable thing for people to know, that it's okay to shed the skin, and you or the God or universe has designed us in a way where we can keep unraveling ourselves without having to carry this fucking bag of our past or this ego stories that were our past. And it's about right now. It's
Need
about
some
the
water,
future.
coffee?
Huh?
Good. Oh, you need some water or coffee?
No, I'm good. I just needed to burp.
All right.
Had a hefty little breakfast this morning.
Yeah, we had
But,
a steak and eggs, oatmeal.
But I think the resets have helped, and there isn't really, you never can plan a reset. You know, it's not like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to go into this event and then shit's going to go opposite. That's never how we think. You know, you're never like, oh, shit's going to go bad for me after this
Yeah.
day. And like, I'm going to learn from this shit. It's just more so like you go through life, shit's going to come in your way, and you might or may have, could have dodged it, could have not, you know, whatever the fuck. You can trick yourself in thinking that it shouldn't have been this way or life's unfair and be a victim about it, or use it to be like, I'm going to come out of this and be the fucking best. And if you motherfuckers didn't catch up, it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. And I think that's the perseverance mindset that through, like, back to the story of like letting people down, letting my family down. It's like, okay, like, hang on. If you fucking didn't catch up, bro, and my mind's only gotten sharper, like, watch out. Like, watch out. And I think that's where I feel like I drive it. That's where a lot of the growth comes from now, where it's like, okay, I'm not doing it for anyone. I'm not doing it for attention. I'm not doing it because I want fucking Sally Smith to whatever to like look at me or like follow me on Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm centered. I got a partner I'm growing and living with. Like, I got a family I'm planning to have. So who is this man? Who do I have to be that man for her, for the family I want to raise, my unborn children that are kicking it still.
It's my balls.
Kicking it still, you know, swimming around and shit. Who do I have to be for them and for her to feel like protected, loved, cared for, taken care of, provided for, and have her unravel herself in whatever way she wants to, simply because I chose to be a strong man figure in her life and haven't ran from the uncomfortable, haven't ran from the pain or the weirdness, the strange conversations, the hard relationship talks, the fucking ups and downs, the spilling outward of certain things. Like, you kind of center, you're like, no, hang on. Like, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that looked really bad. Yes, like, that's kind of embarrassing. Yes, like, fuck. Like, what does this look like on the outside? But then you're like, hang on. Like, my relationship isn't for the outside world. And I don't really talk about it too much. I don't really even like have discussions where I'm like boastful about it. Before, I used to be boastful about my relationship, seeking some sort of validation from it. But now I've like understood that it's just like between me and her. Yeah. And I think that protecting that, and although maybe there's something to sharing it, like, don't get me wrong, but I think protecting the integrity that we share to ourselves and keeping that within us, like, gives us all the power in the world, because we can control the narrative that we know we're our narrative is our narrative, and whatever else is out there is out there. It's not on us. Like, this is what we're on.
I was gonna bring it up too about how from outside look in, like, as your older brother, like, I love to see the dynamic you have with your partner.
It's gonna be the first view.
It's something for sure that's very special, honestly. Like, I'm very happy that I get to experience it, because it just helps me kind of remember what I'm looking for. Because, well, I too want to have a partner one day and be married and, you know, start my family and have our
Nachitos.
offspring
Nachito,
like playing
Chito.
together, you know, literally cousins. They literally be cousins, bro. Like, that I think about that because I think about what I had when I was a kid, and just, yeah, I know I want that. And just seeing an inside look into your relationship, an outside look into your relationship, fuck. An outside look into your relationship is, like, it's so dope to see the dynamic, for sure. Like, I see how much you guys love each other. I see how much you both surrender to each other, and how you know, I'm sure it's hard, like you're saying, you know, like, but you guys making it work. No one's perfect for sure, but yeah, I truly it's like a example in my head of what I think of when I want to, what I want in my relationship, you know.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's balanced, like yeah, I don't know
It's
how else to
constantly
say it
work
other
that,
than like
yeah.
I see how much you just love each other, and I think that's so dope because um well yeah, it's just a good feeling.
It feels
But
good.
yeah, I've been
I'm
single
proud
for
of
6
that.
years.
I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of us in the way that it's played out.
Yeah.
You know, it's been ups and downs like everywhere else, and there's not going to be the ideal thing. There's not going to be this thing where like, you know what, on to the next. Like, I think at a younger perspective, maybe you have room to maybe think that way, and maybe it's just because social media. It's like that paradox of choice, you know. People think you can have whatever you want,
Yeah.
so it's like, why would I
With the
settle for
grasping thing,
anything?
right?
You know, it's like if I could have fucking the roster right here, like why am I gonna
Yeah,
settle for
bro.
one if I'm fucking 22? It's like, well, dude, like, like
That's the way,
you
bro.
being this pillar for this person,
Yeah.
and although maybe you didn't fucking fully know what you were signing up for when you did, it's like here's where you're at now, you know, and
Yeah.
you can run, and maybe you'll still feel okay. I'd probably still be okay. I think now I find like purpose in this idea of a family, of a partnership, of a team thing, a team dynamic that we're building that is challenging. It's never not going to be. And if it was easy, then it wouldn't really be as worth it, or it wouldn't mean as much, I think. Cuz it's like you know, like a one night stand is probably easy, like you've seen in your maybe line of work. Like you probably see people trying to hook up in the club, you see people getting at girls, you see people
Yeah.
like leaving with girls and shit like
Yeah.
that, and maybe in a way that sometimes maybe feels like that would be attractive to do, or that seems like easy,
Mhm.
or it seems like, oh, like low stake, you know, or
I've
low
been
like
saying that since I was 7,
low
8, 9.
buy-in,
Like,
you know, like you don't
yeah.
have to put much commitment to it, but you could have this night of the same sort of
Yeah.
rush of emotions that it took someone building a partnership and getting to know somebody and sharing yourself in that way. It made a lot more it didn't make more sense. It's not like I had 20, like hindsight, and now I can say that, but growing into it, it's not like I knew what I was really giving up or what I was stepping into. It was just more so, okay, I like this girl, I fuck with her, and she seems like she's holding me down in the same way. So if I'm literally looking for what this girl's giving me, like, okay, if I have what this girl's giving me, why am I looking for in other places? Maybe because it's more convenient, or because like a past me would have maybe liked to let that shit unravel.
Yeah.
And it's just like a taming of like yourself, of knowing like, hey, bro, like if I choose to keep unraveling those things and try to put myself in this perspective of a younger me to try to validate those things, like I'm not really growing,
No.
because it's gonna, like, I'm completing side quests for a character that I no longer am.
It's a distraction for
So
sure.
it's like those side quests maybe fit in my but this is the main story now, so there's no room for no side quests, bro. Like I'm on the main tasks in life, and like I said, it's hard. It's worth it though. It's difficult. It's never gonna be just perfect.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be perfect, and I think that's what makes it worth it, to know like, okay, it's not gonna be worth it. And as long as we're not fucking killing each other, like dude, like we're walking a good path, you know. Like it's not like, oh my god, I fucking like don't, like, I'm not happy. I'm happy. So why not keep unraveling this? And it's gonna be hard, but good things come to those who fucking persevere that shit. And I think that when we do get married, or when we do stand like eye to eye and like stand before God and being like, oh, here we go, like I think that story, or that like connection, all the triumphs and tribulations and trials and stuff that we went through and we persevered through, I'll be able to look at her and know, like, I mean, the same way I do now, of being like, dude, I fucking love you and I choose you, and I'm here for you. I want to be here for you, and like I want to receive you and the way you come for me, and you are like here for me. So that's something beautiful to unravel.
Yeah, bro. Any advice for people for us that are
Any
what we gotta
advice?
do to find
Shit. I think you gotta be you, bro. Cause
for sure.
I didn't like when she came in my life. There was nothing I was really doing. Like I didn't call her into my life. Like I didn't intentionally like call her or seek her out. I was being me, posting my podcast, talking to my friends. Hey, post my podcast, please. My
For
friends
real?
posted my podcast. Me talking about whatever the fuck I'm going through, life or whatever it is that I'm going through, whatever the fuck I'm doing, fingerboarding on the fucking podcast, whatever the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Somebody saw that, and she's like, "Oh, like this seems interesting. This guy seems interesting. Like, what is he doing this for? Like, what huh? Okay. Oh shit, he's done it for X amount of podcasts. Okay, let me
Over
listen
100
to
now?
one." And in a weird way, like I don't know what rapport she got from me from hearing the podcast. I don't know what episode was her first episode, but
For real?
she felt drawn to this energy, this
That is
person.
badass.
And I think that when you open yourself, because I was looking for some women attention, definitely. So when this person
Man,
came
a
in,
young
it was
stallion.
like young stallion, testosterone
buck.
pumping through the blood. You know what I'm
straight
saying?
six-pack with the
I had the
six-pack.
6-pack of the blonde hair. Shit, I
Yeah.
felt like the king because
Yeah.
in a way I earned that in myself, and I knew that I had earned that. Nobody had done that for me
Why had you earned it?
because nobody did it for me. Like nobody did it. I did what I did that. Like nobody learned what I needed to learn for me to achieve that. Nobody did that.
Yeah, you did it alone.
I did it for me. I did it by myself, for myself. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I've been a lone wolf, but just per se, like for the sake of like this, what I'm trying to say is like I walked that path that was a little bit to the right of everyone else's path, but even in that, like now I still see, I made a path, I made a bridge, we can maybe say. Like it's a bridge now that I can choose to cross back and forth. And if I want to retreat back to my path, all right, I got my path right here. My fucking whole farm's over here. And if I want to plug back in over here, hey, I'm in. I'm
For
welcome.
real.
I'm welcome. I'm valuable. I'm resourceful.
Yeah.
And I'm dependable, you know? And I think that that's where unraveling yourself, becoming a man in a stronger way or showing up in a stronger way and physically making myself become who I've become. Because it wasn't always like this. I wasn't always this confident. There was this chubby fucking kid, this chubby fat kid with a fucking like short hair mohawk with a high pitched voice. I remember like had a high pitched voice, and I remember like just being insecure about shit like that. But now it's like, bro, nobody did this for me but me.
Indeed.
And nobody's seen what I've seen. Nobody's done what I've done. And you can get power through that. Instead of feeling like, oh my God, my life's been so unfair. It's like, dude, look how prepared it's made me.
Yeah, look at where we are.
And through all these things I've seen, I'm able to paint a picture for myself that's a brighter future for myself that I see. And I can paint this whole idea of like, okay, here's why I'm doing this right now, because in a couple years, we're going to be on the fucking farm, on the ranch, self-sufficient, off-grid, like providing for the community, providing jobs, providing like food for people, because I chose to unravel my interests and
Right
not
now?
follow the regular path.
Right now, can you kind of describe the type of work you're doing from Monday to Friday? With your
Monday
job?
through
Because-
Friday from 7 a.m. to 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm an urban farmer, what you would call an urban farmer.
Urban farmer.
Urban farmer because, you
How
know,
would you explain that to a fifth grader?
so I grow food. I grow fruits and vegetables at people's houses. That's how I would describe it to a fifth grade. I grow fruits and veggies at people's houses.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay.
Some people may know, or maybe they don't. I don't know. But a lot of people think most of our food comes from farms, which a lot of our food does. But food can grow anywhere. Certain food can grow anywhere. And the land will tell you what will grow in certain places. And if you are if you are connected enough to know and see where the sun is going, where the water is coming in, you can kind of make an idea of knowing, okay, there is life here. If there's trees somewhere, if there's like plants growing on the ground, if there's weeds growing, that's technically a place where something could grow.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like, even nowadays, things we can go outside and see that are weeds, and weeds just being something that big agriculture called something to like, basically a plant that a plant in an undesirable location is a weed.
Okay.
So if it's you're in the cement, you got plants growing. That's not where plants are intended to grow. So technically, it's a weed, and technically, you could spray it with pesticides and get rid of it. But some of those stuff are edible native foods, right? So food grows everywhere. Different climates, different places grow certain kinds of fruit and vegetables. But most places that have a sun and access to water can grow food, can grow plants, can grow life. And so what I do is I help maintaining fruit and vegetable gardens in places like Beverly Hills, Brentwood, Hidden Hills. So these like high-end estates, so they're like big mansions we're in that want to have control of what they're eating to a certain degree, to a certain percentage, because it's not fully like any of our clients are fully self-sufficient, because it's a little complicated to do that.
What are some of the reasons people choose to start growing their gardens, when you have your local
Because
Aldi or
so there,
vegetable store
so
nearby?
there's a lot of pros and
What are some of the
there's pros and cons to it. Pros is you get access to the freshest possible fruits and vegetables.
That's true.
Like the freshest fruits and vegetables could be right outside your door. And yes, maybe the store could be across the street from you. And if you live in an apartment, I understand there's not much space for you to grow food. So it makes sense. It's not that we don't need groceries. I'm not anti-grocery store.
Yeah,
I'm not anti-big agriculture, because we need food and we need food at scale. But the reason why someone would want to grow their fruits and veggies is because you can get you can get food at its most prime state. So you can give the fruit or veggie a chance to develop at its most optimal pace, at its most optimal like time.
Yeah.
And you harvest that when it's time for you to prepare a meal. So
and you also have like control of the soil and like
you have control of what you're spraying in it, because a lot of like pesticides, a lot of fungicides, insecticides are chemical compounds made in labs that are synthetic. They're designed to kill certain bugs that, I mean, technically we can eat, are edible, but some people don't want to put those things in their body because some of those pesticides and stuff aren't easily disposed of within our bodies. Like our bodies have definitely been eating those foods for thousands of years, but we don't have the capabilities or the software per se to process fully some of those chemicals.
That's why there's warning labels on the sprays you have, right? I'm sure there's probably a label that says like caution.
So on some of them, on some veggies or some stuff, you'll see in some conventionally grown stuff. And when I mean conventional growing stuff, I mean like at a big farm or a big orchard where they're growing one specific thing, or that's more so the conventional route where they're optimizing for a big yield for big profit to sell to Kroger, to sell to all these other big brands that can slap their label on it and then call it what they want to call it and price it at what they want to price it. What we're doing that's different is you're basically optimizing for a more fresh product, and you're consuming a more fresh product.
Yeah, so rather than getting my onions from some town in Mexico, I get to grow it in my backyard.
Yeah, and
so rather than you can explain maybe
So yeah, and it's a deep rabbit hole to go down as far as like why you would maybe want to eat organic or organic versus unorganic, and where maybe you can buy like mix and match, because it is hard to fully sustain yourself. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. it's definitely possible, and there are systems that you can create within your land or your ecosystem to fulfill this little like self-sufficiency thing. But like it's definitely growing things locally, whether that's a farmer that's growing stuff locally, that's doing organic, that's practicing organic growing principles or practices, you have access to a cleaner product, right? And if you're eating a cleaner product, your body's going to process it clean. It's not going to have an issue processing it, and it won't lead to inflammation. It won't lead
More
to
nutritious.
certain things that are caused by your body being backed up by certain chemicals that are in your body, certain plastics maybe that are found in foods, and overall just certain toxins that are in our foods that we think are healthy, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because we need a lot of food, and if say we have a certain plantation of a certain thing and something comes and eats all of it, how are we going to feed the 1,000 people we anticipated these 1,000 lettuces for? It's like, what are they going to do? You know? And so basically, this goes back to like the way of living that I think maybe was back in the day, where people were producing a little bit amounts of certain things, and that led to being able to trade for stuff. That led to, your community giving back in this way. If these guys are growing these kinds of things, raising cows, raising chickens, that provides eggs, meats, dairy, yogurt, fucking sour cream, butter, cheese, fucking meat, leather, fucking feathers from the chickens.
Deep.
It goes really deep, and it's not just like go to the store, go to Chipotle, get a Chipotle bowl. Like that's really cool that we have that. I don't knock Chipotle. I'm not like, oh fuck Chipotle. Like I love Chipotle. I would still go to Chipotle in a heartbeat, but there's something different. There's something different to you going outside, getting a lettuce that got the most prime lettuce you could possibly get, and then you chop it up and eat it. That's something fulfilling to that. There's something, I think that's kind of the way God meant for it to be, like have the food here. Here's the Garden of Eden per se, and you go ahead and enjoy what you need to enjoy to live your life in a sustainable way. So I think growing organically is like a open loop than just a conventional, here's the food, we'll figure it out later. It's like the organics part. It's like, okay, like we'll get the lettuce, but then the roots could stay in the soil, and then we throw a little bit layer of compost on top, so then animals are going to eat or bugs are going to eat the rest of those roots, and then cause more fertility in the soil that are going to help you plant your next crop, or the next group of lettuces that you go in. It's going to feed off of the old lettuce roots, because in the roots there's like certain chemical or certain buildups of, I guess, chemicals. Like natural chemicals or natural, I'm blanking on the word. I don't think chemicals is the right word. Certain properties, I guess, of bacteria, of life, that are able to be digested in this open loop, where the bugs feed the birds feed,
whole food
but the
chain,
birds
or
eat
like
the
whole
insects, the insects eat some of the veggies, and it's like a loop of sustainability of protecting this sort of lifestyle that we live. Ecosystem. I think when we focus on creating a healthy ecosystem, even at a small scale of just like your house, your property, that goes a long way in the thousands of millions of microbes in our soil, rather than just bland dirt or fucking turf grass. It's just fucking like turf grass is like plastic rubber, made out of like tires, old tires. So it's like, okay, that's cool, and it's nothing wrong with it. It looks nice. But like, so does a efficient garden. And the pros and cons is just time, and it takes time, and you gotta learn it. You gotta learn what grows good, when it's the best time to grow. You don't just go and throw seeds and tomorrow, poof. Lettuce is here, carrots is here. It's just it doesn't work that way. Like you can definitely be intentional about it, and you can plant this with that, or you can plant this in this spacing, or you can even ignore that and fucking optimize for just. You can optimize for food, per square foot. And when you want to feed yourself, that's kind of the principles you kind of have to think about. Because like you can maybe plant one lettuce here, say, or you can plant 3 rows of baby lettuce greens that are going to be ready in 3 weeks rather than a month.
More people in a sense.
Rather than a month for one lettuce head. And that same lettuce head took the same amount of space. So there's pros and cons to it. But what I do is basically maintain the fruits and veggies in an organic way. We maintain, we organically remove pests by, certain products we use that are listed in the organic database of like stuff you can use that's edible and non-toxic. That was a long little rabbit hole to go down, but yeah, there's a lot to that organic stuff.
You're very connected with food. I feel like you the way you express, you're just very passionate.
I think too because I didn't know growing up. Like the reason why I was chubby is because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't blame my mom either for bringing the food she brought us. It was like, oh, like we got a jar of cookies. Remember, my mom would go ham.
For your buck also
bang for our buck, and like, that's why those things are like, it's a pro and con to like conventional food and grocery stores, and even like you said, it's like cost effective to buy a pack of cookies and that instead of like, making like buying flour and eggs and baking cookies and like that whole shabam. It's like here's fucking 50 cookies for 50
especially here in Los Angeles, because I feel like one thing that not just only us experience but many people who step out of this matrix from the city life and maybe they go to Mexico or just abroad or just to a new place, it really opens their eyes to how here we're just constantly on go like, oh, I need optimizing
for now.
So I know you're gonna be going to Mexico in a month. I was gonna say 2 months, but now it's in a month. It's a month away. But
Fuga.
What are some of the things you hope to do, or maybe just even brainstorm? Because I feel like we're visionaries. So like, you're going to Mexico with your partner. Not only that, but with our parents, but also with this new view of
fruits and veggies.
Just
so I feel like one thing, there's like even nowadays, like I drive by houses, I'm like, oh, that's an orange tree, that's a mandarin tree, that's a lemon tree, because that's shit that's in season now. Or oh, that's a plum tree, that's a nectarine tree. I can see. I'm excited to see what's growing in the places that it's growing. For example, I know a lot of food grows in Aguascalientes, and in our past, our family has memories of things growing, but true. Because of loss of time or whatever reason, they needed to chop down this tree. They needed to chop this tree down.
True.
Not thinking, oh yeah, it's a mango tree that's been here for fucking 10 years or 5 years.
Yeah.
But we got to build a house here. So there's a chance for, and it's a selfish maybe thing, but selfish in the way that I want to have a base there that is self-sufficient, that can provide for me and someone to maintain that, so that when I do go, it feeds into me and feeds into the community.
Yeah.
And, there's been people, I've had talks with people, and it's been a little bit of disappointment in a way, because I feel like certain mindsets that are there maybe won't really accept certain principles that I have. So that's why I feel like it's a selfish thing for me to do it for me first. And like I said, it's crazy till you do it. And once you do it and you can explain to people why you did it, it's going to make sense. And maybe there's a little bit of famine mindset that comes with like certain poverty or certain lifestyles that people have to live. That's like, what do you mean you're going to feed yourself? What do you mean like regenerative farming? What do you mean like you're not going to use fertilizer? What do you mean you're not going to, because to our people, they maybe just didn't know, and they were told by the big companies, like, here's what you need to grow.
By the ingenieros.
All that shit, all big agriculture and big pesticide, big fertilizer,
for sure.
big fertilizer even, and and just be like, what the fuck do you mean there's a way to do it with like no input, no outside inputs? Yeah, dude, like, do you see these trees? They fucking drop leaves every fucking December, like fall time. Okay, let's gather up all those leaves. Let's compost. Let's make worms. Let's fucking throw away our food scraps in this way. Like, okay, we don't need to create so much trash. We don't need to, like,
no more
we don't need to, like, fill this cycle of needing, oh, we need plastic bags or we need this. It's like, oh, hang on, like, let's fucking take a step back and think of like the impact we want to have moving forward while everything's moving the opposite way. So it's kind of like an uphill battle and you're fighting by yourself. That's why I feel like it's a selfish thing to say, I want to do it for myself, so that once it's set up, it's like, here's how to do it, bro. Follow what, like, reverse engineer what I did. Reverse engineer what I did, because I've seen people doing this shit in Beverly Hills and Brentwood, and it's not like it could be a small house and they could have the same amount of bed space and it would provide the same amount of food. It just happens to be that I work in like mansions and shit like that.
What is it like? Like, do you ever walk in there and I'm like, hey, I'm walking into my crib.
I'm like, my crib. All those shits are my cribs. No cap, bro. All those shits are my cribs. I tell myself. It's cool. It's definitely cool. I'm definitely grateful. Sometimes you can kind of get stuck in like thinking, oh man, I gotta do this I gotta fucking pull grass out of the tree beds, bro. I gotta like scrape under the dirt a little bit and fucking pull grass. Like,
But you get to.
But then it's like, wait, bro, you get to like where you're at, dude. Like, you see the fucking ocean right there, bro. Like the ocean view.
You get to see it
like that's the ocean right there. Like, we're in a fucking $1 million residence. Like what? It could be so much worse. And the thing that I see that always grounds me, bro, there's other landscapers there that put in work. Wait, compared to what I do, I'm like walking in the fucking garden, like picking flowers and shit. And these fools are like trimming hedges, fucking trimming trees, fucking. It's like with me. It's like with me. And then with them, it's like rock and roll. Like, there's a contrast of shit that you're like, oh fuck, dude, it could be so much worse. Or you see people digging and motherfuck, and I'm just kind of like here, my little trash can, fucking. Like, it's really cool. It's cool to go to cribs and then be like, oh hey, Seuss, like welcome. Or I've just been there for so long, or been there for 6 months now, so they see me, they see the shirt I'm wearing, they're like, all right, like,
they know who you are.
They know who you are. Like, you're not a stranger. But it's really cool to be like, hey, it's Jesus. And they're, oh, welcome. You know, it's like, oh, or just fucking going up, and I have the passcodes. I'm like, beep, 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 beep. And like, access granted. Access granted to 10 of these $1 million residences.
I think it's cool that you're learning this trade. What's up, Adrian? Come through.
Come through. We're on a podcast.
But I think it's cool that you're learning this trade because there's skills that you're learning, sure, and you're providing value to the people you're working for. But this can, like you said, you can grow food anywhere. So these skills can apply. Well, I was going to say, because sometimes I speak Spanglish, not going to lie. Like, sometimes I'll say stuff in Spanish and then in English. But, yeah, I think that's really cool that, sure, you're getting paid to work, but you're getting paid to learn, if you think about it, because
that's the mindset.
You're seeing a lot of things that you wouldn't have seen if you just never would have started working.
Yeah, like I would have maybe learned it because I was growing my own stuff.
Maybe
but
by textbook
no, you know.
It. Yeah, but
like,
you're in the field. Like,
even like I did do one season of growing whatever I could here at the house without going there. But then I learned like certain little systems. I learned, like, I saw the theories I had in my head, like, or videos, and the videos were telling me, hey, dude, like, okay, here's the principles to follow. And then I got into this job, and then my boss was like, well, maybe we don't do things that way because of this, or like, oh, you want to do things this way because of that. But then there's also still beliefs that I have that we don't do now that I know do work. Then I'm like, okay, well, when I get fucking freedom to try what I got planned, my way of thinking, it'll like still provide results, you know. And it's like the permaculture way of thinking is basically, permaculture stands for permanent agriculture. That's kind of the conjunction is permaculture. the permaculture stuff, meaning like, yeah, you can do this on a permanent scale. You can live sustainably. You can build a house with mud, with hay, with sand, and this fucking
Right.
building will stand for thousands of years. Like, it's not gonna burn. There's a wildfire, it's not gonna burn. Earthquake is not gonna break down.
Really?
No,
Wow.
there's structures that are still standing that are like cob. It's just hay and fucking mud and clay. And don't get me wrong, there's probably maintenance to be done. Like, I'm sure it's like clay. Clay will bound to break or bound to eventually, if it's not built right, it'll probably like seep in or collapse if it's not built correctly. But there's sustainable ways to do it where you can literally like, you can make it so your home is breathing. So it's like a brick, right? A brick gets wet and it has space to then dry out.
Yeah.
It holds water for a bit and then it'll dry out. So those houses are basically bricks and they'll fucking absorb water. And if it's built correctly, it'll be able to breathe and then it'll like help release the water. But by being this way, you're also keeping heat in, you're keeping cold out, or, vice versa, keeping cold in and keeping heat out. So self-insulating things. And this is how we used to live.
Yeah.
This is how we used to live. It's just now it's like wood frame construction and plywood.
What $1 million
Even the mansion, bro. Even the mansions I've seen built like are plywood and fucking 2x4s.
I mean, market value, sure, it's $1 million house, but how much is the cost of goods of building a house? Maybe $500,000, maybe less. Maybe it costs them $500,000 to build it. And yeah, just market value makes it at
because the real estate, where you're at. But like the houses there are built of wood and plywood.
Yeah.
The new constructions I see is wood and plywood.
Yeah.
And then they add layer. So it's wood, plywood. Then they put the fucking plastic around it to weatherproof the wood. And then they can maybe put another layer outside that's like maybe like what's called like stucco or like that outside, like certain even cement maybe shit like that, And that's not wrong. Like it's cool. It's definitely badass. But then there's also like there's something beautiful to thinking, oh, this is a mud house. This is a mud. Like, what difference would it really make if this was a mud room or if it was like it's a regular construction build? It's just about surviving,
having a roof over your
having
head,
a roof, having shelter,
having a shelter
for you to carry on your traditions and raise people up, and hopefully they can make an impact in the world. Because where we grew up, bro, we grew up in a small house.
Yeah,
we grew up in a small little home.
We knew it was a tiny house, but
it wasn't thinking like the glamorized way that it is now. It's like, oh, tiny houses. It's like, well, we were just broke.
Again, it's like, oh, we're broke or like, damn, like.
And now it's like, oh, I don't know, mud house seems pretty dope, and there is some really dope mud houses.
Cool.
There are some really cool cob houses, like. So I think sustainability helps us because it keeps your income, it keeps you regulated. Like there's definitely pros and cons to both styles of living, but at the end of the day, you're living. And if you're being a good person, it doesn't matter if you're being a good person in a mansion or you're being a good person in a fucking mud house. Or if you're making an impact in a $1 million residence, like you're able to fucking make the same, if not a greater impact just by living a different way. Walking a couple steps to the right and walking parallel to what we've been told.
Living truthfully the way you
sustainably.
Feel like
I feel like that's the future, sustainability. Because if we can't sustain it, then there's no life and there's just Earth. But Earth has humans, and if we're gonna keep populating, we gotta make sure we gotta fucking keep this shit in order. We gotta keep this shit in order, and I think through principles of sustainability, we can make a small dent in this battle that we're ultimately gonna lose. But hey, just go down fucking swinging, baby. Go down swinging, and fuck it. Go down swinging.
Go down swinging. The month of February.
No cap. Today's the 1st. Shout out February 1st. Fucking 31 days in. I'm doing a little challenge where I'm growing some reefer this year. I'm going to wait till I can consume my own little.
Practicing sustainability and
self-sufficiency. And paying some respect to this medicine I love by growing it. Growing it and growing it.
That's pretty badass. looking forward to seeing the harvest. Not gonna lie.
We're gonna get some 10 ounces, hopefully. Shit. Hey,
We'll see what's
10
up.
ounces.
But we've been going, and I would like to end by sharing some wisdom from the
Alright.
Stoics and the
Alright.
philosophers.
All right. Shout out Ryan Holiday for putting this book together.
Yeah, no cap.
The Daily
Oh,
Stoic,
The
February
Daily
1st.
Stoic. So this book,
Let's
I
hear
got it on Depop. Not gonna lie, I got this on Depop secondhand because I don't
Sustainability,
remember
baby.
why I got it. But
Sustainability,
I think
that's
I heard
why.
about this book in a YouTube video, and yeah, I was like, I want to get it because it basically just gives daily quotes, but it's just a bunch of wisdom from the past leaders, and yeah, it just, for example, this quote from today is from Marcus Aurelius from the Meditations book, which is just a diary collection of his letters to himself, you know?
The journal.
A journal, basically his journal entries. So today we're going to read February 1st. For the hot-headed man. Keep this thought handy when you feel a fit of rage coming on. It isn't manly to be enraged. Rather, gentleness and civility are more human, and therefore manlier. A real man doesn't give way to anger and discontent. As such, a person has strength, courage, and endurance, unlike the angry and complaining. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Meditation.
Sheesh, no cap.
Marcus Aurelius. Why do athletes talk trash to each other? Why do they deliberately say offense and nasty things to their competitors when the refs aren't looking? To provoke reaction. Distracting and angering opponents is an easy way to knock them off their game. Try to remember that when you find yourself getting mad, anger is not impressive or tough. It's a mistake. It's weakness. Depending on what you're doing, it might even be a trap that someone laid for you. Fans and opponents called boxer Joe Louis the ring robot because he was utterly unemotional. His cold, calm demeanor was far more terrifying than a crazed look or emotional outburst would have been. Strength is the ability to maintain a hold of oneself. It's being the person who never gets mad, who cannot be rattled because they are in control of their passions, rather than controlled by their passions. Amen.
What
Now
did we
let's
tell
read-
y'all? What did we tell y'all? Be in control of yourself. Stick to
Okay,
the
let me just give you
principles.
A question to ask yourself today and ponder.
We're going to end off with this one.
How can I conquer my temper? Think about that, guys. And we're going to end with that.
Shout
Thank
out
you so
to
much
y'all.
for tuning in.
It was good. It was
It was
fun.
a
It felt a while. It's
Freaking
been a
crazy
while.
conversation. It was dope to have my brother on here.
No
We're gonna,
cap.
hopefully have him back 6 months from now. During your birthday, maybe. Come back or what?
I'm coming back. I'll be back.
Yes, sir. But yeah, that was the Ignacio Talks podcast, and we're tuning out. Peace.
Thank y'all.